What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego. The Vampire Stream. I need my serum. The Vampire Stream. What's good? Live from the 215. This is not going to be too long on the Vampire Stream. I will get some sleep. It's almost daytime. Can y'all hear with this fan on? Can y'all still hear me with the fan on? Or is it too distracting? On the Vampire Stream. It's not too loud. All right. Someone said ego quick hits. Boxingego. I can't even do it right now. Listen, let's jump right into the content because it's not going to be too long on the Vampire Stream. So, I seen a video. Towns in LA, and I seen it on. I think it was on. I don't know whose channel it was. It might have been his or Debian. I'm not sure who posted it. But I just clicked on it. And Eddie Hearns. You guys seen the title. He said Joshua, you know, Luis King Kong Ortiz is someone of interest, you know, beyond the Miller fight. Obviously, he has to get past Miller. But Joshua feels confident that he can do it. And rearrange. He said he's gonna rearrange Miller's face. Miller, right? Listen, let's see it. It's just that's you know, that's it. Let's see it. I always tell you guys the same thing. LSI. Let's see it. Cause I gotta see that one. That's a good fight. Anthony Joshua versus Luis King Kong Ortiz. If he gets past Miller. You know, if the Wilder fight or AJ and Fury can't get made, let's see it. Now, the one thing I will say about the interview is I wish I was there, to be honest, because there was a couple parts where Eddie Hearns, he said some things, and I would have tried to, you know, maybe get some more information because it didn't, some of the stuff he was saying wasn't adding up to me. That's why, like, you know, I no knock on anybody, but I just know my style of, like, you know, the information I have and stuff. See, this is the thing with Eddie Hearns and a lot of promoters, to be in general. You got to be quick-witted because, you know, I give credit to Eddie Hearns. Like, he's been in the business. And he's a fast talker. Like, rapido, you know? He's a fast talker. So you have to be able to keep up with that because he's going to ba. And see, this is the thing. One thing I notice about, like, debating is when people are going back and forth. I had a person do a speech when I was in college. And they were basically saying that they seen a study, and 80% of the people cared more about the delivery than the speech. Only 20% of the people cared about the words that were spoken, like what the person was saying. 80% of the people, it might have even been slightly higher, cared about the delivery. So that's what I'm talking about. When you like when Eddie Hearn's talking. Some people's perception, because he's going to say it confidently and he's going to just say it. So if there's no interjection, then people are going to be like, oh, yeah, he made a good point. He's schooling you. But that's, like I said, that's why I wish I was there, because I want to get schooled, you know, because he said some things that didn't even make sense to me. See, someone said Hearn's superpower is deflecting. Yeah, so I would have loved to have this conversation about AJ and Luis Ortiz. Like, for example, I'm telling you, I give credit to Eddie, you know. And like I said, a lot of the promoters have the gift of gab. They say stuff so quick, so if you don't, if you don't chime in, then they're gonna keep going and they're gonna act like they proved you wrong or something, And that's what I kind of gathered from the interview. Eddie Hearns was just like, cause the person was talking to him, and it wasn't Town's voice, but he was like, yeah. Like, what about AJ and Luis Ortiz? You said he would vacate the belt and this and that. And then Eddie Hearns was like, oh, no, that's not true. And then, and then he just kept going. But like I said, I'm trying to get schooled. So I would love to have that same conversation. Because he said some stuff in there that, just didn't make sense. But you got to be keen to pick up on what he said in the moment, you know what I'm saying? Because he's just going to try to see. I know how to deal with people. Like, I've always been a people person, and I'm from the Bay. You're not, good luck trying to out hustle someone from the Bay. You know what I'm saying? Like, get over on them, like take them for a ride, get over, swindle. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the Bay Area, we know how to get in where we fit in and wiggle and shit. But anyway, yeah, it's just Eddie Hearn. It's like he says stuff with conviction and tries to overpower you with the, like, oh no, that's dilute. Try to make you sound crazy. But what's being said really is not crazy. The bottom line is Anthony Joshua could have fought Luis King Kong Ortiz. And he picked Gerald Miller. And he even said this in the interview. He said in the interview that we went to Madison Square Garden and we went to DAZN and we said Gerald Miller or Luis King Kong Ortiz. And he says DAZN in Madison Square Garden says we want Gerald Miller because he's from Brooklyn. He's a, big talker, etc. Right? So I'm like, all right. So you gotta put this, because new media, Ego's Army. I'm getting so quick-witted because I hear all of this stuff from people who try to battle me in the hot seat, that my rebuttal game is too precise. Shout out to Jason, £2 super chat. It said Eddie Hearn learning the hard way. My rebuttal game is just nasty, and it's just from doing it. People always coming up with different arguments to counter, but you gotta see. I'm into linguistics, the human language, diction, what people are saying, substance, the words you choose. So some of it didn't make sense. Like, let me give you guys some examples so you guys know what I'm talking about. When Eddie Hearns was saying, okay, so first of all, he says that he went to DAZN in Madison Square Garden, and basically they picked Gerald Miller over Luis Ortiz. But then later in the interview, he says that Luis Ortiz is an option for Anthony Joshua and a person of interest, someone Joshua would be interested in fighting because of he said because he wants to fight guys with a U.S. profile, guys with U.S. Basically guys with U.S. profile, guys that are known to U.S. audiences, etc. So my question is this: you just admitted on tape that Luis Ortiz has a U.S. presence and U.S. fans know him, but Gerald Miller was the fight that you made, and you said DAZN in Madison Square Garden picked Miller over Luis Ortiz. So that doesn't make sense to me, because Gerald Miller, you just admitted Luis Ortiz had, like, basically high profile fight with Deontay Wilder, and he has a U.S. presence because you said that AJ would be interested in fighting him for those reasons, right? So with that being said, then why would DAZN, unless they're just out of touch, why would DAZN in Madison Square Garden want Gerald Miller over that? And he hasn't had, Gerald Miller, he didn't really even have that many main events. You know what I'm saying? Versus Luis Ortiz, main evented with Brian Jennings, an American, guy who fought for a title against Klitschko, stuff like that. So that doesn't even make sense. So that's one thing that he said that didn't make sense. Is basically you said you threw DAZN and Madison Square under the bus and basically said they wanted the fight. But why would they want the fight? And usually I don't know. I mean, this is what he's saying. So I don't know what they discussed. But Madison Square Garden, like, do they even know boxing? Or are they just trying to get the best, most lucrative? You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just don't know. I think they just want something that's going to be successful in their building, But that doesn't mean they're like super well versed and they follow boxing every day, And apparently same thing with DAZN, because like I said, I think Luis Ortiz would have been a bigger fight in New York. Me personally, because if you look at like some of the Danny Jacobs cards with Gerald Miller as the co-feature, they did around 4,000, 4,500 tickets. You get what I'm saying? Versus King Kong Ortiz and Deontay Wilder did like 14,500 or 15,000 tickets, the two of them. And then I don't know the exact number, but the Brian Jennings card, I believe, was in New York too. It was on the East Coast. And, it looked like a pretty cool crowd. So that doesn't make sense. And then Luis Ortiz also fought on Mikey Garcia versus Robert Easter, which was a big unification card in America at the Staples Center in LA. I was there. And then Luis Ortiz also fought on Wilder versus Fury, which did, 350,000 pay-per-view buys or whatever, and was highly talked about. And he was on that card too. So, stuff like that doesn't make sense. Why would DAZN, like I said, and Madison Square Garden both be in agreement that Gerald Miller is the better fight for their building, for their streaming platform, when Luis Ortiz, kind of, as Eddie Hearns mentioned, has the bigger. He didn't compare Luis Ortiz's profile, but he did mention that Luis Ortiz had a big American profile. So that doesn't really make sense to me. That's why I said I wish I was there, because these, from first hearing, that's immediately what comes to mind. Because like I said, I do this every day. There's always somebody, you don't know what you're talking about. So, school me with the facts. I'm ready. So that's one thing. That's one kind of thing that I would like to get clarification on. Then the other thing he said was, he admitted that Luis Ortiz basically was a name in America and had a U.S. presence to the point where Joshua would be interested in fighting him, possibly even next. That's someone that they're would be looking at. But then he proceeds to tell you how ever since the Wilder fight, Ortiz has been basically mismanaged and ain't fought nobody. And the Christian Hammer fight was, dreadful, and his profile is dropping. So I'm not the smartest brother in the world, but why would Joshua be interested in fighting this guy if you're saying since the Wilder fight his stock is plummeting? Like, these things don't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. You just said that AJ would be looking at possibly fighting Luis King Kong Ortiz, right? But then later in the same interview, you said that everything was up here for Luis Ortiz. He was getting a lot of credit, a lot of fanfare, right? And people were basically fucking with Luis Ortiz after the Wilder performance, because even though he lost, he held a good account of himself, acquitted himself well, right? Then you say like his stock has plummeted. Like, who's he fighting? Just old media stuff. Who's he fighting? He ain't fought no one. And then the guy that was interviewing him did bring up something like, hey, that's because no one wants to fight him. He's the boogeyman. And he's like, oh no, come on. His last fight with Christian Hammer, that was, it was a stinker. But once again, the questions I would have would be this. You just said Eddie Hearns. He literally is almost saying three different things in a concentrated one interview. Like, okay, what if I got on here and I'm like, you see this blue? Rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. I'm a Crip. And then I say, hey, what's up, blood? And then later I say, man, I'm straight Crip. That it wouldn't even make sense. You know, I just went from Crip to blood back to Crip. That's what Eddie Hearns does in some of these interviews. I've seen it. He'll say virtually, because he's saying so many different things in one interview, the same interview, he's in essence saying three different standpoints. It's insane. You know, okay, so just hear me out. It's like a round trip and then a trip back to that place without a trip back home. You get what I'm saying? Like it's crazy. So you said Joshua would be interested in fighting Luis Ortiz possibly next. That's a candidate basically that you would look at past the Miller fight because he has an American profile. Then you basically talk about who has he fought. He was doing well from the Wilder fight, and people were like liking him and these types of things. And then now he's being mismanaged and he's not getting any like proper fights, and the Christian Hammer fight was terrible and stuff like that. Like, these are like polar opposite things. You get what I'm saying? You say you're looking at possibly fighting him, and then you also say that he looked like shit and blah blah blah, and then you also said that the DAZN and Madison Square Garden picked Gerald Miller over him. But once again, like, these things don't add up, because every fan I'm talking to says they would have rather seen AJ versus Luis Ortiz. So why is it that DAZN and Madison Square Garden are picking what they want? So, like, I mean, I'm not the smartest brother in the world, but like I said, if I run a business, the customer, the crowd is my business. Those are the patrons. Those are my fan base. Those are the consumers. So how is it that everyone I talk to says they would have preferred Luis Ortiz over Dillian White and Gerald Miller, right? But then Madison Square Garden and DAZN are just picking what they want. You get what I'm saying? But my thing is this: what they want should be what the fans want. You get what I'm saying? That's how you make more money. You'll make more money if you supply and demand. You know, you give the fan guns and butter. You give the fans what they want, then your building's popping. Everyone's happy. Madison Square Garden's lit. Ticket sales are, as good as they're gonna be. Stuff like that. So, that it doesn't really make sense. But that's kind of like Eddie Hearn has this like kind of good cop, bad cop type of thing, what he does in interviews. And you have to catch on, because he'll just keep going. And it's like he'll move on to the next thing so quick. So if you haven't rebutted or whatever, then he's gonna try to make it look like he's proving you wrong, but he's not really proving you wrong. He's just like, this is what happens when I do the hot seat. Everybody bounces all around the play. Like, they'll be like, oh, Wilder's a bum, he ducked. You're so biased for Wilder, and I'll be like, what did I say that was biased? Oh, why didn't Wilder fight Klitschko? Like, see, I can't do that. If we're having a talk or we're having a debate, let's hone in. Let's focus in on the one subject. This is what they try to do. See, trust me, I do this debate shit. I do the hot seat shit. You guys see it. You know what I'm saying? And what people try to do is in arguments or debates or whatever you want to call them, is they try to throw so much shit at you, throw so much shit on the wall just to see what will stick. And if you switch the subject so many different times and say this and that and this, then you might end up saying something that has nothing to do with the original argument that somebody relates to. And now it's going to feel like they agree with you, but that's not even what you were even arguing. Does that make sense to you? Have you ever seen that it happen in an interview? The Vampire's Dream. Have you guys seen that in an interview where, like, okay, let's say we're arguing about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I'm like, man, grape jelly is the best fucking jelly for a PB&J. And then the person I'm arguing with is saying, fuck that, I like strawberry. Grape is weak, I like strawberry, right? And then we get other people involved in the argument. So the argument is, what flavor jelly is the best for PB&J sandwiches? I'm saying grape, someone else is saying strawberry. That's the argument. But see, what happens is people, when there's a crowd of people and they're like, hey, you're at school or something, there's a bunch of people in the class and everyone joins in on the argument. And instead of sticking to the PB&J initial argument, people keep throwing, man, fucking hot pastrami is king. I love hot pastrami. Then you're going to have somebody in the classroom who's like, oh yeah, he's right. Ego's right. Hot pastrami is good. But the thing is, we weren't even talking about hot pastrami. That wasn't even the argument. The argument was PB&J. But that's what happens when you veer off and you get off track and you get off course. You might like spaz out and like swerve into another conversation, and then somebody might agree with that particular point, but that's not even what you were arguing. Now it looks like they're siding with you, but they are siding with you, but they're not siding with the original argument. They're not talking about the grape jelly anymore. They're not talking about strawberry jelly. Now the debate has shifted to hot pastrami, and we weren't even talking about that. And I see this all the time in boxing. That's why in the hot seat, they always try to throw 3,000. They say you're biased. I say, what did I say that I was biased? What do you disagree with? And then they'll be like, oh, you da-da-da-da. Hey, you don't like Lomachenko. Oh, da-da. And then they can't stay focused. Is common deflection and diversion tactics. But you guys got to watch the interview. Eddie Hearn said a couple things, and like I said, I just wish I was there because some of it wasn't making sense. You said AJ might fight Luis Ortiz next because he has a good American profile, and that's what guys you were looking for. But then you also say that an American company, DAZN, an American venue in Madison Square Garden, chose Gerald Miller over Luis Ortiz. So why is it that that Luis Ortiz is a great, a big American name, but the venue and the streaming app you're working with, they picked the other guy? Right? Then you say he raised his profile with the Wilder fight, but who has he fought since? So now you're making it like he's a bum or some shit. And like I said, the guy that was interviewing him said, nah, that's because he's like, this is like old media classic tricks, sleight of hand tricks and shit. Luis Ortiz, he's fighting to stay active. He's fighting because his daughter is sick, and he's fighting who he's fighting because he's avoided. When you're avoided, you got to fight who's left. Like, we wouldn't be talking about Christian Hammer if Joshua said, yo, I'm fighting you next. So what are we talking about? You just said, Eddie Hearn just said, DAZN in Madison Square Garden, he threw them under the bus and said they picked Gerald Miller over Luis Ortiz. So how can you complain about who Luis Ortiz is fighting when you just admit, this is what I'm talking about. This stuff don't make sense. You just admitted on camera that you presented Luis Ortiz as a name and Gerald Miller, and your company that you're working with, DAZN, and the venue that you're hosting Joshua's next fight in said, we don't want him. We want Gerald Miller. He's American. He's a loudmouth, blah, blah, blah. So how can you front on Luis Ortiz? Somebody answer that. You just gave the answer. You just said your company in the venue picked against Luis Ortiz, and you mad because he's fighting who he's fighting. Even though Joshua called him out on DAZN and didn't fight him. Come on, man. How's that fair? How's that make sense? Come on, man. It make you smash the like button. This shit is too easy for me. This is too easy. You have no, I don't care about Luis Ortiz's age. I don't care about his shoe size. I don't care about nothing. If people won't fight him, then it's just what it is. If he wants to fight Drop Dead Fred, then I'm gonna support it because we know why he's fighting those people. Just like the other people, like people like, oh, Errol Spence, where's his resume? You know, people, you know, top welterweights had opportunities to fight him. He said, call Al, I'll fight Thurman, Porter, all them, Pacquiao. You know, Pacquiao was in the ring with him, and he's talking about fighting Thurman, who nearly got stopped in the 7th round. Once again, this is what old media is famous for. They know exactly what's going on. They know who's avoided. They know who's chomping at the bit to fight guys, and they know who's not. And then the guys who are really avoided, they try to act like it's by choice or, you know, oh, why is Charlo fighting Brandon Adams? Probably because he called out Canelo. Canelo's fighting Jacobs. Canelo would rather fight Jacobs, you know, who had some tough fights and has been stopped before. Still a good fight, but that's the reality. Charlo hasn't been stopped before. He'd rather fight him. Triple G got ordered to fight Charlo and never even talks about Charlo. So, once again, old media is notorious for this. They know why guys are getting avoided because they're good. And then they try to use that against them. Come on, man. Stop playing with us. Female boxing fan 1, what's up? It says they don't want the fight just like they didn't want the Wilder fight. Big facts. That's what I'm saying. So let's see it. Let's see it. Like, there's nothing to even talk about, bro. Like, you're mad because Luis Ortiz is fighting Christian Hammer and losers or whatever he's, you know, whatever you're trying to allude to. But then you just admitted that your company didn't want Anthony Joshua to fight him, and they preferred Miller for whatever reason. Make that make sense. Listen, I'm too advanced. I'm telling y'all, I've been doing this too long. I'm like really in my prime, like Floyd. Like I really feel like Floyd Mayweather with this shit. If y'all come, make sure you come correct, cause I'm coming. Shoulder roll, high guard, however you want it. I'm real life on some Floyd shit. My mind is too sharp right now. I've reached the pinnacle, like Grand Wizard, Shaolin monk type shit. If you coming to debate, know your facts, be factual and serious and accurate with your information, and come with it, cause I'm ready. Here's another thing. Like this what I'm saying. I'm like, I could hear stuff. I could hear arguments, like counter argument, and chew them up. I chew them up. I swallow them. I chew them. It's that easy for me now. Here's another thing Eddie Hearn said. This is from, like, I'm not even talking. I told you I'm in the zone, man. I'm blacked out. The blue pill in the fucking Matrix. Like, next level shit. I'm on some Neo shit, bro. Here's another. This is from the first listening. I didn't have to play it back and keep listening. I just watched it. You know, I took an Epsom salt soak and I just listened to it. And all I did is heard it once. And I already caught. I didn't even listen to the whole interview. And I already caught mad loopholes and shit. Another thing that, like I said, I wish I was there because I would have had questions about all this stuff. Eddie Hearns, he says that he basically was trying to make it like Luis Ortiz is not avoided and a ton of people wanted to fight him because the guy who was interviewing him said something like, oh, your fighter didn't want to fight him. Facts. He's like, Dillian White, why didn't he fight him? And Eddie was like, Dillian would fight him. Okay, but you didn't make the fight. You put him in there with Derek Chisora, and next fight you just offered to fight to Manuel Char, who didn't want the fight. And we'll see if Dillian White fights Luis Ortiz next. It's the same thing as before. You get what I'm saying? So you're making it like no one's avoiding Luis Ortiz. Okay, Dillian White's free. That's a great fight. So is that going to be next? It doesn't work. That's what I'm saying. These arguments don't work anymore. Okay, Joshua's tied up. Fine. Even though he called out Luis Ortiz and didn't fight him. Fine. But what about Dillian White? He's free. His opponent has not been announced. And he wants to get back in there. And you said Dillian White will fight him. Let's see if Dillian White, that's his next fight. That's what I'm saying. The old media stuff, it don't work anymore. So I'm waiting. I can't wait till the announcement to see if it's Luis King Kong or Ortiz. But then anyway, Luis Ortiz, he was making it sound like everybody is down to fight him and it's all about money. And basically like Luis Ortiz is not avoided. And he was like Joe Joyce. He was like, Joe Joyce will fight him. And then I think the guy said, no, he wouldn't or something. And Eddie Hearn was like, oh, yeah, I just talked to Joe Joyce's people today. He would fight him. Joe Joyce's, he would love to fight him. First of all, Joe Joyce's manager is the mouthpiece, Sam Jones or whatever. He's the mouthpiece vehemently calling out Luis Ortiz. I don't really hear Joe Joyce saying anything. You know, he seems like pretty humble and just chill. I never even heard Joe Joyce say nothing. I ain't heard Joe Joyce say anything about it. You get what I'm saying? I heard Sam Jones call him out. But then after Sam Jones did all of that, and he even did it at the Wilder Fury post-fight presser, I was there. He was like, yeah, Luis Ortiz's knees need WD-40, and he's old. He's about 96 years old. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Joe Joyce is just sitting there like kind of like smirking, didn't really even say much. Abel Sanchez did public interviews. Eddie Hearn's claiming that Joe Joyce's team or whatever, Joe Joyce would love to fight him next or something. And he just talked to Joe Joyce today or some shit. Abel Sanchez just said that they want to fight Luis Ortiz in like 4 or 5 fights. So what is that? I could pull this up in seconds. Abel Sanchez, Joe Joyce's trainer, literally said that they don't want to fight him next. He's not ready for Luis Ortiz. So what is Eddie Hearn even referring to? That's what I'm saying. These arguments, these old media type arguments, I swallow them. This is easy. I chew them. I chew all these arguments. It's too easy for me. Y'all got to give me some competition. This shit too easy. Another thing, like I could do this, and it's not nitpicking. This is going after what you said and analyzing it. The other thing, aside from the fact that we can all prove from our phones with simple Google that Abel Sanchez said they're not ready they want more fights under their belt before they step in with Luis Ortiz, but that's a good future fight. So that's already its own argument standalone. The other thing, Eddie Hearn, just go watch this. Just go watch this interview. The other thing he said Joe Joyce would fight him. I talked to his people, which I just disproved, because his people did interviews recently and said they wanted more fights. But the other thing he said, he's like, yeah, that's a good fight. So why doesn't Luis Ortiz fight him? He said Joe Joyce, he's a young, hot prospect. Okay, first of all, he's not quote unquote young. He said, see, this is all I have to do is hear it once, and I know, because I know my shit. Joe Joyce is 33 years old. That's not considered a young prospect. You're not a young. Teofimo is a young prospect. Ryan Garcia, 33 for a boxer, is not considered a young prospect. I'm sorry. It's not old just to be like, a person who's 33, but as a boxer, 33 is not considered a young prospect. You can still be in prospect status, but that's not considered a young prospect. Teofimo is a young prospect. He like 21 or some shit. Barely old enough to drink. Ryan Garcia, Shakur Stevenson, those are young prospects. Joe Joyce is a grown-ass man. He's 33. He stayed an amateur. So, once again, another discrepancy. I swallowed him. I'm telling you, this shit is easy. He said Joe Joyce is a young prospect. He got to get the ball rolling because he's 33. That's an advanced age for someone with less than 10 fights or whatever he has, because he stayed in the amateurs or whatever, or started boxing late. And like I said, Eddie talks a mile a minute. Bah, 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 bah. So if you don't catch these things right then and there, he's going to just keep going and try to make it look like he's destroying you or schooling you. So like I said, I'm ready. Come school me, because I know my boxing. I know facts. I know places, people, places, and things. I know nouns. I'm professional. I know how to talk, but I know this sport. You know, I know recent activities and shit like that. I'm not saying I'm Burt Sugar. I could tell you who fought in 1901, but all this recent shit, that's nothing. You know, since I've been covering the sport, like on YouTube, that's it. Because I've been to the fights, I go to the fight, all that stuff. But you're making it sound like Luis Ortiz ain't avoided, and we know that's not the case. If okay, like I said, LSI, let's see it. If Luis Ortiz isn't avoided like he's making it out to be, then AJ or Dillian White should fight him next. Period. End of story. Whatever. That's it. There should be nothing else. So we'll see if that happens. You know, because we're not playing. The Vampire Strain. We're not playing these games. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know who's avoided and who's not. We know who wanted what fight when. We know who gets pressured into having to fight a guy and shit like that. We know all this stuff for the people who really follow the sport. Like, you could fool a couple casuals who, you know, just like fast talking and stuff like that. But the people who know boxing, know details, they can interject in some of this. Luis Ortiz is definitely avoided. Like I said, if I'm wrong, then Dillian White's next fight, his opponent hasn't been announced. Instead of looking at Povetkin, Emmanuel Char, and all this, go for Luis Ortiz. The WBC wants that anyway. Line it up. You know, winner can get Wilder or some shit if Wilder beats Brazil. I remember these same people were complaining about Ortiz getting no shots. These dudes are liars, though. That's why these man fans be lying. Like, remember King Corleone? I'm real glad my shooters be holding it the fuck down. You know, y'all gotta give it up. These shooters they be on their boxing shit. But that's a great point. I'm glad King Corleone brought that up for the simple fact. Remember when Luis Ortiz was undefeated and people were saying Wilder had a garbage resume and 40 fights and 40 bums? They were pushing and pegging Wilder to fight Luis Ortiz because they didn't think he would do it. They're like, oh, Wilder, why don't you fight Luis Ortiz? Because you knew Luis Ortiz was dangerous. You knew Luis Ortiz was undefeated. You knew he was a powerful southpaw. You knew he could box and brawl. You knew he was a Cuban, you know, skilled fighter. So the fans were like all about prompting Wilder to fight this man because they knew it was a tough fight, and a lot of them probably thought Luis Ortiz would or could beat Deontay Wilder. So they're like, yeah, come on, Wilder. You know, your resume sucks. Why don't you fight Luis Ortiz? And guess what? He actually did it. Not only did he fight him, he battled adversity, never dropped to the canvas, and dropped Luis Ortiz to the canvas several times en route to a knockout win. Now all of a sudden people are trying to act like Luis Ortiz is so old and, you know, he's not the same and his stock has dropped and he's not the boogeyman. Fight him then. I keep saying the same thing. If Luis Ortiz ain't this, he's old, he's 94, you know, all this stuff, then fight him. Show us that. Show us that he's 98 degrees, 98 years old, whatever. Show us this. Show us how much his stock has dropped. Make his stock drop more. See, everyone could say this stuff, but nobody's showing it. That's like me saying I followed a rainbow home and I seen a pot of gold at the end and I'm about to be rich. And then someone's like, oh, I'll go with you. You know, where's this? Show me the pot of gold. And I'm like, I know where it's at. All right, let's go. Nah, but I know where the pot of gold is. Like, come on, let's go. I'll drive you. Let's go. Let's get it before someone else gets it. Nah. But I follow the rainbow. I know the path to get to the pot of gold. Man, nobody believes it. If you say you found a pot of gold and they wanted to go see it, and you just talking about nah, I can't show nobody. I don't want to go back there. You know, it's a 2-hour drive. Nah, you lying, bro. Ain't nobody gonna act like that. Same thing with like Luis Ortiz. Everyone acting like he old and stuff, but no one's trying to fight him, so nobody's buying that at all. Oh, isn't he 84? All right, whatever. But fight him. If he's 84, fight him. Put him in a senior citizen home. They're not doing that. And they prompted Wilder to do it. Oh, Wilder, I bet you won't. And see, that's the thing with new media. The fighters that you say new media is dick riding for giving them credit for things they're doing, they actually are doing them. They're actually rising to the occasion. They did the same thing with Andre Ward. They said, oh, yeah, Andre Ward, leave Golovkin alone. Why don't you move up to light heavyweight and fight Kovalev? Because they thought Kovalev was big. You know, he was boxing. He killed a man. Strong, powerful. Beat Jean Pascal. But guess what? Andre Ward obliged them. When you look at old media, the fighters that they put number one pound for pound, when people challenge them, they're not oftentimes rising to the occasion. People are like, yeah, all right, Tyson Fury. You know, new media is like, okay, Tyson Fury, you won 10 rounds to 2. Fight Wilder again next. Then he's not fighting him next. You know, oh, Triple G, you should fight Charlo or Andre. Those are great fights. Then he's not fighting him next. That's what I'm saying. Old media can never be us, because the stuff that we're bringing up, the stuff we're advocating, is real shit. Shout out to North Philly. I see you. You know, so like I said, Eddie Hearn's interview about Luis Ortiz. Let's see it. You're saying that Joshua and Luis Ortiz is an option for next, but Joshua called him out before the Gerald Miller fight, and you made Gerald Miller, and now you're blaming Madison Square Garden and DAZN. So what was the point? Why didn't Joshua call out Gerald Miller first? First name out of his mouth on that DAZN interview was Luis Ortiz. That's clout chasing. World Breaker, what's good? That's clout chasing, man. We live in a clout chasing society where it's like, you know, Lomachenko's about to fight today. Bob Arum keep talking about Spence, you know, and Mikey. It just people that's not even, you know, it's just clout chase. It's a clout chase. All this stuff is clout chasing to me. You know, talking about Spence and Crawford. Crawford got to get past Khan. Let's watch that. But you know, the Lomachenko fight ain't getting the hype that it, you know, maybe that you expected. So you have to make headlines another way. You know, talk about Gervonta Tank Davis, you know, to hype people up. This is age-old promoter tricks. You know, Pacquiao fighting Chris Algieri, you know, people aren't even really elated to see. And you bring up Mayweather's name. Oh, Mayweather might be next for Pacquiao. You're just saying that. You're saying that to so people watch Chris Algieri and Pacquiao, you know, under the pretense. It's like the bait and switch, you know. You say it, hoping they'll watch it, thinking the Mayweather could be next. So, I can't miss it. Let me see how Pacquiao looks. New media's evolved, man. We smart. We see all this stuff going on. But yeah, man. Eddie Hearn in this interview, like I said, is all over the place. It really is. He said AJ might, he's considering Luis Ortiz next, and it's something that could happen because he has a U.S. profile, and that's the kind of guys that he's looking for. Okay, so you admit he has a U.S. profile, but then you say DAZN and Madison Square Garden rather AJ fight Gerald Miller. So what gives? So DAZN and Madison Square Garden rather have Gerald Miller for AJ than Luis Ortiz, but you just admitted Luis Ortiz has he's name known in America, and his profile was high after the Wilder fight. Okay, and then you try to make it look like he's not being ducked, which we know he is. And like I said, the easiest way to fix all this, if he ain't being ducked, then let's see Dillian White or Anthony Joshua fight him next.
was a bit crazy, right? And he says some crazy things. For you, here's all the money, let's go. That's how it gets made.
Is there some kind of way, Bob, that maybe you, is there some, sorry, Eddie, is there some kind of way that you guys could work this out between the Zone and Showtime? Maybe you and Espinosa could get together and work something out.
Anthony Joshua. Yeah, I gotta ask, man.
Yeah,
That was
that's on the radar.
2017.
That's on the radar. I'll tell you something.
Yeah, I remember you saying that you would get rid of the WBA title. You would vacate that if you were ordered to face Luis Ortiz.
No, I never said that.
Yes, you did.
No, I would
Yes,
never
you did.
ever say that.
Yes, you did.
No, I would
You really
never,
did.
ever.
Eddie,
What I'm talking about a situation where there was another fight that we were working on. It's actually the Klitschko rematch. I said, if we have to vacate the WBA belt to fight Klitschko, we will do it. That's very different from you just telling me then that you said you'd vacate the belt rather than fight Luis Ortiz. I never said that. I said we'd fight Klitschko as we had a contracted rematch instead. Now, let me go back to Luis Ortiz. When we had a choice to fight in America, there were actually two options for us. Jarrell Miller and Luis Ortiz. We went to Madison Square Garden, we went to the Zone, and we said, who would you rather? They say Jarrell Miller. Right? We want an American, great, from Brooklyn, big mouth, great. So that's why. Luis Ortiz is a very probable opponent for Anthony Joshua, maybe even next. Certainly in the future, because if we're going to fight in America more often, we need people who have name recognition, profile in America. Luis Ortiz is definitely one of them.
Yes. He wants to fight badly.
Okay. So you guys heard it. He says, Luis Ortiz, we presented his name and Jarrell Miller, and they said they wanted Jarrell Miller, the American. He has a big mouth, does the trash talking. That's what we want. So he said that's how that was selected for Joshua. Then he says Joshua fighting in America and whatnot. Luis Ortiz is a candidate basically because he has a name in America, and that's what we need. We need guys with profiles and that are already built up in America. So that's a probable opponent.
Who's badly?
Who's badly?
He wants to fight Anthony Joshua badly.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
He does. He wants to fight Wilder
He
again,
does. I
too.
feel sorry for him.
He wants Wilder and Joshua.
I feel sorry for him because he's fighting, the people he's fighting are horrendous.
Yeah,
and
he's number one fighter.
No, but his value is going down.
Even your guy, Dillian White.
See?
Dillian White.
See? I just told you. It's fast. You just said, literally just said, and listen, this is the fast talk. I got to give it to Eddie Hearn. You know he can fast talk. He literally just said that we want to possibly fight Anthony Joshua versus Luis Ortiz. That could be a fight even next for Joshua beyond the Miller fight, right? So, okay, keep this in mind. He says he said when it came to Joshua fighting America, two names were up. Luis Ortiz, Jarrell Miller. He said DAZN and Madison Square Garden picked Jarrell Miller. They liked the package, American, trash talker. So that was made. Luis Ortiz was left in the cold. That's one thing he said. Immediately after that, he just told you that Luis Ortiz is a person of interest for Joshua's next fight beyond Miller because he's a name profile guy who's built up and he's known in American audiences. That's two. Then right after that, immediately after that, he starts bad-mouthing Luis Ortiz or saying, like, taking jabs, saying, I feel sorry for Luis Ortiz. I feel sorry for him because he's fighting, the guys he's fighting is horrendous. This stuff doesn't make sense. Okay, so the guy, he's fighting guys that are horrendous. Then why does Joshua want to fight him? You know, why is this someone you just said you're considering fighting him? You just said that. You said you're considering fighting him next, but then now you're talking about he just said his stock is dropping lower and lower and lower and lower. But then you just said Joshua wants to fight possibly him because he's a guy with a profile that's been built in America. But now you're like shitting on him and saying it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I'm telling y'all. Y'all gotta look for the bait and switch. You have to say one story and like kind of stick to it. First of all, Luis Ortiz is a name known, guy. Listen.
Very different from you. When we had a choice to fight in America, they say Jarrell Miller, right? Maybe even next. Certainly in the future. Great. So that's why. Luis Ortiz is a very probable opponent for Anthony Joshua. Maybe even next. Certainly in the future. Because if we're going to fight in America more often, we need people who have name recognition, profile in America. Luis Ortiz is definitely one of them.
He said Luis Ortiz is definitely one of them. We need guys with name recognition in America. And then because the guy says, oh, he definitely wants to fight. He wants that Joshua fight. Then Eddie flips to, oh yeah, I feel bad for him. Listen.
Who's badly?
He wants to fight Anthony Joshua badly.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
He wants to fight Wilder again,
I
too.
feel sorry for him.
He wants Wilder and Joshua.
I feel sorry for him because he's fighting. The people he's fighting are horrendous.
Yeah,
and
he's number one fighter.
No, but his value is going down.
Even your guy, Dillian White.
Okay. You just like excuse me. I'm allergic to bullshit. Listen. This is the fast talking. That is, you gotta be quicker than that. He just said Luis Ortiz is a guy with name recognition in America and is a probable opponent for Joshua. 2 seconds later, he's shitting on Luis Ortiz. I feel sorry for him. Guys he's fighting are horrendous. These are horrible fights, and his value is going down and down and down. His profile is dipping low and low. You just said he had name recognition and stuff. So it's like all over the place. And then he says, your guy, Dillian White, didn't want to fight him.
The people he's fighting are horrendous.
Yeah,
and
he's number one fighter.
No, but his value is going down.
Even your guy, Dillian White.
Dillian White will fight.
Dillian White's not trying to fight him. You know he didn't give off no 2.6 million. Come on, man.
You're like asking me questions, but you're telling me the answers. That's not what this is about, really. You're not saying, does Dillian White want to fight? You're just telling me. So if that's your thoughts, that's fine. Okay. But what I'm saying is, by Luis Ortiz fighting Christian Hammer and stinking the whole arena out, who cares about Luis Ortiz?
See? I can't even do this, bro. He says Luis Ortiz fighting Christian Hammer and stinking out the whole arena. Who cares about Luis Ortiz? You just said he was a probable opponent for Joshua. How can I believe what you're saying when you just said it's like talking to three different people? He just said like three different things. Like, this is crazy. He just went from bigging up saying Luis Ortiz has name recognition in the States and it's a probable opponent for Joshua to, you know what, I feel sorry for your mother, you know, some Menace to Society shit, to shitting on saying he stunk up the whole place, and, you know, I feel bad for him because he's fighting these guys, and then he said Dillian White will fight him. Then he says his value is dropping lower and lower and lower, and then now he just said who cares about Luis Ortiz? You just said Dillian White will fight him, and you just said Anthony Joshua will fight him. Now it's who cares about Luis Ortiz. This is crazy.
That's fine. Okay. But what I'm saying is, by Luis Ortiz fighting Christian Hammer and stinking the whole arena out, who cares about Luis Ortiz? That's why they're doing a bad job for Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz's value after the Wilder fight has gone to the floor. Right?
See? I can't. And then, listen, he says that's why they're doing a bad job. Basically, they're doing a bad job promoting, right? They're doing a bad job with Luis Ortiz. But guess what? See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I wish I was there because I have some things I would have said. He says they're doing a bad job promoting Luis Ortiz, basically, you know, because his value is dropping and dropping since the Wilder fight, right? But guess what? Eddie Hearn had a case-by-case couple fight pact with Luis Ortiz. What fights did he put him in? He just protected Joshua from never having to fight him. Luis Ortiz was with Matchroom for a couple fights, and he was fighting Malik Scott, which was worse than the Christian Hammer fight. That was a horrible fight under Matchroom's banner, Rematch Room. And then he fought Dave Allen, which also wasn't, you know, that great of a fight. So what does Eddie Hearns refer? See, I told you I'm too advanced, man. Y'all should have just let me alone. I'm too advanced with this stuff. So you're bad. You're saying that the PBC is basically doing a bad job of promoting him, and his profile's dropped, and he stunk up the place with Christian Hammer. The Christian Hammer Ortiz fight, I watched all of them. Christian Hammer Ortiz was better than Malik Scott and Ortiz by far. You know, because there was action. There was some action there. Christian Hammer was like tough and showboating. The Malik Scott fight was not good at all for Luis Ortiz. And then the Dave Allen fight wasn't really good. And that's Eddie Hearn's cards, you know? And then, like, really, you can look at, like, you talking about Christian Hammer and Luis Ortiz was horrible. What about David Price, and Cash Ali? How was that fight? Motherfuckers getting bit in their stomach and shit. Come on, bro. Like, that's what I'm saying. I can't listen to this stuff. So this is what promoters do, you know? When Mikey Garcia's with Top Rank, they're like, oh yeah, Mikey's the, you know, pound for pound star. Now that he cut ties with Top Rank and he's doing his own thing, making money elsewhere, Bob Arum got nothing nice to say about Mikey Garcia. Oh, he's the B-side. Oh, he's just robbing people and taking their money and not showing up, you know, against Errol Spence. This is what people do. So Eddie Hearn's not complaining when he had Luis Ortiz and they put on the Malik Scott fight. That was under Matchroom's banner. But then now PBC has him. He's bad-mouthing the Christian Hammer fight. That's what I'm saying. You got to know your boxing, you know, and you got to remember stuff. That's why I come into play. Because some of you guys know your boxing, but you don't remember shit. Oh, shit. I do remember Malik Scott and Luis Ortiz. That was a rematch room card. That was horrible, you know, once I put it in perspective for people. So, you know, this shit is crazy, bro. Eddie Hearn is just like all over the place with it. Like I said, LSI, let's see it. If Luis Ortiz is not avoided, that's fine. Then I hope to see one of Rematch Room's fighters, Dillian White or AJ if he gets past Gerald Miller, in with Luis Ortiz next. There's nothing else to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. He's making it like no one's avoiding Luis Ortiz. He just said, he literally said Dillian White will fight him. Dillian White will fight him. Okay. Dillian White will fight him. You just admitted that. So Dillian White's opponent hasn't been announced. Can we get that next? Let's see if that gets done. And the funny thing is, I just seen that Manuel Char, like, Dillian White's mad because Manuel Char doesn't want to fight him or some shit. So how is Manuel Char turning down offers, but you're not sending a reasonable offer to Luis Ortiz? They saying the volume is low. We just went over this. The volume is low to anybody else? Some people get hypnotized by Eddie's swift talk. That's what I'm saying. If you just listen to it, it don't sound bad what he's saying until you break it down and know your boxing. If you break it down, then you can decipher it. Like I said, Malik Scott versus Luis Ortiz was a horrible fight. That was way worse than the Christian Hammer fight. And that was under Matchroom. But he ain't saying nothing. I don't think the volume's low. It's 5:30 in the fucking morning and I'm doing a vampire stream. So I'm not screaming. I'm about to sleep. I'm a vampire, bro. Y'all got them bootleg government phones. Y'all got them Obama brick phones and shit, bro. What's up with my guy, Blue Blood? What's popping? Yeah, man. Y'all got them Cricket mobiles. Y'all probably got companies I ain't never even heard of. Like who's your cell phone provider? Man, I got that Centipede. Like what the fuck is Centipede? Y'all better get some Beats by Dre if y'all can't hear me. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I think I'm not talking loud. Yeah, but anyway, Eddie Hearn, he just be here. I'm gonna blast y'all fucking eardrums out then. What about now? Are we better? I just raised it. Can I live? Does it sound better? Can I live now? Can't I? I raised the volume. Can I live now? Are we good? All right. And this is so funny because I just did a live stream and they said the volume was too loud and crackling, so I turned it down the other day. And then now all of a sudden, people a day later, they just tell me to turn it back up. This is crazy. But anyway, y'all listen to that Eddie Hearn interview. Pugilism and Politics, $2 super chat. He said they got them Betamax brick phones. That's what I'm saying. They got the car phone from New Jack City, that big ass brick phone. Yeah, I'll be at the Carter later. Like, y'all got them Carter phones. Yeah, man, Eddie Hearn's, you gotta listen because he'll try to like overpower you and like fast talk you. You know, you gotta catch it. But he said multiple things. He said Joe Joyce is a young prospect. He's 33. That's a grown-ass man. He ain't no young prospect. Teofimo, young prospect. You know? He said Joshua and Luis Ortiz, because Luis Ortiz has U.S. recognition and name recognition. So he's definitely someone we're looking at for next. Or, you know, this is a probable opponent. And then you go from that to shitting on Luis Ortiz, saying, I feel sorry for him. The Christian Hammer fight sucked. And then he stunk up the place. After the Wilder fight, his profile went, and everybody, you know, doesn't know him now. And, you know, come on, man. That doesn't even make sense. Smoke and mirrors. You just literally said Joshua could fight him. That's a probable opponent. And then when you start getting asked tougher and tougher questions, then you just reverted to shitting on Luis Ortiz and making it sound like nobody watches him. He stunk up the place. You said his value keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. You know, that's like, I don't know. It's just petty. Let's say I had a girlfriend and we just broke up. And then I'm saying good stuff about her, like, oh yeah, like we broke up, but everything's cool. She's still cool. She still means a lot to me. And then my friend that I told that to, he's like, oh yeah, because I heard she's telling all her girlfriends about you, saying you was a deadbeat and you was a slouch, and you know you wore dirty socks and whoop whoop whoop. And then I'm like, man, that bitch, her pussy stank. This, and I'm trying. Now I try to flip on her. Nah, bro, you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just went from everything was amicable, showing respect, to once you found out that she was calling you out for your shit that you did in the relationship. Now all of a sudden you trying to badmouth her to retaliate. Come on, bro. Man, fuck her. That bitch breath was like, her breath smelled like water moccasin. Fucked out. Like, nah, you can't do that. That's, nah, bro. Her breath smelled like burnt diaper, motherfucker. You just said she was cool and you had no problems and you always have love for her, bro. Now you try, now because she said something about your trifling ass, now you want to retaliate. You know, come on, bro. That's what Luis Ortiz, that's what, or whatever Eddie Hearn just did. You just, yeah, Luis Ortiz, we'll fight him. Hey, Dillian White won't fight him. Man, fuck Luis Ortiz. Eddie Hearn like Chauncey. He's Chauncey from Menace. Remember that dude was watching boxing on Menace? And he's like, this is a good ass fight. This is a good ass fight. And he was like, this looked like Kane whooping your ass the other night. And then Chauncey was like, man, fuck Kane. Yeah, let's see what Kane got to say for himself when 5-0 get a hold of this tape. That's Eddie Hearn. Fuck Kane. Wait till the cops get a hold of this tape. What? Hey, Kane, you went too far, bro. Yeah, water moccasin is a snake. That's what her breath smell like. Water moccasin. And wombat. Do y'all know what a wombat is? That's what her breath smell like. A wombat. Yo, barracuda breath, bitch. Man, fuck Kane. Let's see what Kane got to say when 5-0 get a hold of this tape. Like, you just said Luis Ortiz is a probable opponent, and then now you're trying to shit on him. Come on, man. Like I said, fast talk. Fast talk, Ed. Bro, I told you, like, I don't care, man. I don't care about people calling Luis Ortiz old. Unless you're going to send your fighter in with the geriatric, then I don't want to hear it, bro. Like, it gets old after a while. Oh, he stunk up the fight. Okay, Dillian White had fights that weren't that great. Robert Helenius wasn't a good fight. That was a shitty fight. You know, it happens. You know, Joshua versus Joseph Parker wasn't good. Carlos Takam wasn't even that good. To me, Joshua Klitschko, that was lit. But Joshua versus Joseph Parker was a stinker. And that was pay-per-view. You know, at least PBC had the gall to not charge pay-per-view for Luis Ortiz, Christian Hammer. And that was just a co-feature. How did he stink up the place? That was an Edeslandi Lara card. And Edeslandi Lara, his fight was dope with Castano or with Brian Castano. Listen, man, Eddie Hearn is saying, oh, he stunk up the price. He mad at a co-feature. That wasn't even the main event. PBC co-features be better than some DAZN main events in the whole cards. What are we talking about? Like, this, it's just crazy. Like, this is like pure lunacy that I be hearing on this thing. I hear pure lunacy, man. Like, it's crazy. So, you put on cards on DAZN and have the audacity to talk about Luis Ortiz versus Christian Hammer being a horrible fight, but Liam Smith just fought Egg Boy or whatever, Sam Eggington. Really? You know, David Price getting 1,000 chances to prove his worth to the British public, and he getting bit the fuck up in the abdomen, and the fight ends horrifically. It really? And you're talking about a co-feature, really? But we had to watch Gerald Miller fight in the barnyard with dog food, Dog the Bounty Hunter, or whatever his name was, from Romania, Bogdad Dinu. Come on, bro. We had to watch Gerald Miller versus Thomas Adamak, you know, and you talking about Luis Ortiz being old and his fights be stinkers. Come on, bro. Jesse Vargas versus Thomas Delorme. So those were instant classics. Like, really, people? Really? Joshua versus Parker was definitely a stinker with horrible refereeing. Yeah, trust me, I know, because my whole house stunk after I watched that fight. You know, the whole place smelled like chitlins. I was like, what the fuck is that smell? Oh, that was that fight I just watched. The whole house smelled like straight up chitlin juice. You know, I had to open up windows and vents. Neighbors' dogs was getting sick and shit, bro. I know it stunk. You don't have to tell me. That ref didn't. Joseph Parker said the ref didn't even. He was from Italy. He said the ref didn't even speak English. Ref didn't even know what was going on, bro. Joseph Parker, oh, he bit me. He bit me. And the ref was like, it's me, Mario. The ref, the motherfucker, what? They just picked someone random from Italy and shit, bro. That wasn't bilingual to speak the common language of the two fighters in the ring. It's me, Mario. Yahoo! Whatever. Man, that Joshua Parker was not it. You know, if we're being honest. That was a handicap match, Joshua and the ref versus Parker. Yeah. I thought the scoring wasn't good either. Like I said, new media. We just gonna keep breaking this stuff down. See what makes sense to y'all. See what, you know. I'm gonna say my piece. Y'all say y'all piece. But like I said, I can't wait to see Dillian White's next opponent. Can't wait to see Triple G's next opponent. I can't wait to see Joshua, if he gets past Miller, his next opponent. Because man. Luis Ortiz, y'all can say whatever y'all want, but like I said, I gotta see someone face him. I don't care about his age. I don't care about none of that. And see, listen. Luis Ortiz, whatever age you fucking think he is, this is not some this crazy phenom in boxing. What I mean is this. We've seen guys much older, like George Foreman, Larry Holmes, obviously Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins was like 50-something fighting. And people didn't really act like this. You know what I'm saying? Bernard Hopkins was like really 50-something, 50, 48 and shit, taking on Kovalev and Joe Smith Jr. and shit. You get what I'm saying? So the thing is this. If the performances are adequate, and it, like, if Luis Ortiz was looking like a 60-year-old and getting knocked down every fight and beat up, then you could be like, all right, this is not fair. This is, you know, a health risk. But these people keep bringing up his age, but his performances, he's hanging with people who are younger than him and beating them. So what are we talking about? That's how I know it's an excuse, because people didn't bring up Bernard Hopkins' age. Like in a negative way, like this, like, hey, why should I fight him? He's 56. So, like I said, let's see it. He said Dillian White. He said Joshua, that's a probable opponent that Joshua could fight next after Miller. And he said Dillian White is willing to fight Luis Ortiz. So, he's the promoter. Let's see if he makes that. Let's see if he facilitates that. Because, like I said, Eddie Hearn, he does the fast talk, and he tries to make you feel dumb, even if you're coming correct. Even if what you're saying is true, he'll try to flip it on you and win the favor of the crowd. This is kind of what Bob Arum was talking about. And this is the thing is, like, I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, this new media shit. And people... Like, it's not even just people who are directly related to new media. Sometimes people hear the videos and it's like Pac said. He said, I'm not guaranteeing I will change the world, but I will spark the brain. It doesn't matter. The message is out. Like, whether I get credit or not, whether new media gets credit or not, the message is out. We got the wheels turning. We got people thinking. We will spark the brain. So even if it doesn't come from like new media directly, you see the energy when Eddie Hearn is in America. So, you know, this is definitely going to put pressure on UK media, because guess what? When he's in the UK, he's doing 1.5 hour long interviews And he never looks uncomfortable. He's never getting drilled. He's never being asked questions remotely as hard as this. Every single time him or Joshua comes to America, you see this. Every time. Every time. And guess what? Like I said before, the UK can't save you here because you have an American venture in the zone. So you're going to have to, you know, win over the critics or the hearts of the American public the way you did in the UK. Every time he's in the UK, he's doing 40-minute interviews, an hour, hour and 20, hour 40, right? Smiling and stuff. But then when he comes to America, it's a different getup. You know, he being asked about, oh, what about Luis Ortiz? What's good with that? What's popping? You know, oh, Dillian White ain't trying to fight Luis. It's always different. And it's happening on every coast. This was at the Corolla shit in Los Angeles, but the same happened. I don't know if he's still in here, but Blue Blood, you know, and other people, when he's in the New York, they're asking, it's not even a disrespect. They're asking good questions and different questions that he's not used to getting in the UK. So that shows you. I love the UK. I used to live there in England, you know, but y'all got to step it up. The UK media, UK fan, y'all got to start demanding it. You know, if you really care, UK birthed boxing. You know what I'm saying? So if y'all really give a fuck about the sport that y'all created, then y'all got to stand up for what's right. You know, all this bullshit about Luis Ortiz is old and no one's trying to fight him. You got 3 UK fighters that can easily fight him next. Joe Joyce, Anthony Joshua, and Dillian White. 3 UK fighters. You know, really 4. Tyson Fury could have fought him too. 4 notable name guys from the UK that could all fight Luis Ortiz. People rather talk about his age. You know what I'm saying? They rather talk about Wilder turning down 100 mil. But they don't talk about Joshua turning down 50 mil. Y'all got to come correct, man. If y'all really care about this sport, I don't give a fuck where you from or whatever. Fact is fact. Fiction is fiction. Real is real. It's just, that's what it is, man. You know, so like I said, you guys watch the interview. Let me know what you guys think. But Eddie, he was doing some fast talking. I found some discrepancies of what he said. And like I said, you see every single time on both coasts, West Coast, East Coast, no matter when he's in America, if there's media that are eligible to get to him, the questions always seem 1,000 times different than when he's in the UK. Has anyone noticed this, or just me? Am I the only one that sees this? Am I the only one that sees this shit? When he's in America, them questions get, you know, you're not getting them softball questions, the little questions that you can easily, you have to actually defend yourself. You got to actually bring up points and stuff like that. And the thing is, I'm personally finding loopholes in some of the stuff he's saying. Like I said, he said Joe Joyce was a young prospect. He's 33. How is that a young prospect? He literally said that. He said, oh, Joe Joyce will fight him, and he's a young prospect. He damn near Luis Ortiz is, he's 33. Luis Ortiz listed at like 39 years old. So they're not that far apart in age. You talking about young prospect. These interviewers here be checking his ass, asking questions just to see how much he can lie, LOL. But see, like I said, y'all believe what you want. This is the crowd he has to appease because he's a big part of DAZN. And, you know, we can't just rely on Canelo to bring in all the traffic to DAZN. You know what I'm saying? That's not fair. That's not right. And beyond that, Canelo's making crazy money. He ain't going to fight 4 times in a year. You know, he's not going to fight that frequently. And he don't have to fight that frequently. So these other people in the other cards, they're going to have to, you know, carry some of the torch for DAZN. So that's just my little 2 cents. I think Eddie Hearn needs to build his relations with America and American media. You see, like, how do you do an 1.5 hour long interview and it's all smiling and giggling, and you interview with other people and then it's just like, oh yeah, you did it, and it's like more. It's just a different energy, you know. Like for example, Joey Spencer, that's my guy. When I interview him, you know, he laughs at jokes because I know him. But it's not like he's interviewing with other boxing entities and he's getting drilled. Do you get what I'm saying? He's not getting like everyone's like I'm just, because I know him, I'm asking him softball questions and like, you know, certain style of questions. And then other people who don't necessarily know him are killing him and asking him a bunch of hard shit that I wasn't willing to ask him. Do you get what I'm saying? That's just one example of a fighter that I know. You know, you're not seeing a variance. You know, the type of questions that I ask him, you know, if anything, they might even be deeper than some other people because I know him personally. So, you know, I've had conversations. I know what I could ask, and, you know, I have a different relationship with him and his family. You get what I'm saying? But you're not seeing me ask a type of question, and then everyone else is asking the good shit and the real shit, and I'm asking, you know, only questions that make him feel comfortable. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, that's the difference, you know. He said, hey, cursors of food. He said, bruh, I was done when Eddie said, why do I always got to tell the truth? That was just bad all around the board. Yeah, that was crazy. I ain't never heard no shit like that. He really said that, though. That's like a motherfucker, a man being married and be like, yeah, telling his wife, man, why I always got to be faithful to your ass? Huh? Why I got to preach and believe in monotony? Huh? Why I got to be monogamous with your stinking ass? Why I got to be faithful? What? Why do you have to be faithful? Man, get your ass, you know, you're going to be the next Jeff Bezos with no pesos. Because Jeff Bezos got some money. You just going to be broke. She going to take half of broke. So she going to have the BR and you going to have the OKE. I'm going to see you on the side of the street and you'll be like, I'm OKE. Y'all motherfuckers is broke. She gonna take that BR from you. You just gonna be like, okay, E, you was right. I got bars. She gonna take half of your shit. Anyway, like I said, good luck to everybody. Anthony Corolla is in good shape, though. You know, so we'll see what he does tonight. He looks like he's in good shape, so I like seeing that at least. But as far as Eddie Hearn and what he said about Luis Ortiz, like I said, let's see it. Put Dillian White in there next. Put Joshua in there next. That'll be the ultimate. See, this is the thing. There's nothing to even talk about. If you said Luis Ortiz has name recognition in the United States, so I hope to see Joshua in there with Luis Ortiz. I hope to see Dillian White in there with Luis Ortiz. You know, that solves it. So let's see if those fights are made. I'm out. Everybody have a good morning.